Welcome to Real-ationship Goals, a podcast all about the realities of healthy relationships. Real-ationship Goals is a project of the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. If you or someone you know has experienced sexual violence or harassment and is seeking support, services, or needs more information, links to resources and our hotline number can be found in the description. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of their organizations or affiliates.
Hi everybody, this season in Real-ationship Goals, we are incorporating a very special new segment in which we are going to be shining a spotlight on some of our awesome community partners here in Waco. Today I have Carmen Merritt, the Prevention and Education Coordinator at the Family Abuse Center, here with me today, just to share a little bit more and help us learn a little bit more about the awesome work that they're doing in our community. Carmen, thank you so much for joining me here today. Please just tell me a little bit more about Family Abuse Center.
Sure. Well, Kyla, thank you so much for having us. We are honored to be your guest today. So I'm going to start with our mission with Family Abuse Center. Our mission is to eliminate domestic violence in Central Texas by sheltering victims and by preventing abuse from occurring through intervention and education. So we serve any survivor living in our 6-county service area, and that includes Bosque, Falls, Freestone, Hill, Limestone, and McLennan. We offer emergency shelter, legal advocacy, counseling, case management, support groups, transitional housing, children's services, and community education. And we ask that anyone that needs any of our services call 1-800-283-8401. That is a 24-hour hotline, and that is local.
Awesome. Honestly, I don't think I ever realized that we serve the exact same counties. That's really fun. I love that. It took me an embarrassingly long time to memorize the list of 6, so I still count them off on my fingers to this day.
I also still do that.
Yeah, remembering Hills feels like a battle in and of. No offense to Hills County, we love you very much, but it's just, oh man, for some reason you're always at the end of my list. But awesome. Please tell me just a little bit more about Family Abuse Center's hope and vision for Waco.
Sure. So our hope for Waco, it goes right along with our mission statement. It's to eliminate domestic violence in Central Texas. We want to see any survivors find safety, health, and happiness ultimately. And if we can be a part of that, we would love to be.
Yeah, hey, that's a vision we can get behind for sure. Just kind of one of our last questions. What are some good ways for folks to get involved and get engaged with the work that y'all are doing?
So we have a lot of different ways that you can get engaged. We actually have several events this month. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So Family Abuse Center staff is extra busy all month long with all of these events. We've got National Night Out Tuesday, October 3rd. We are going to try to blanket all over town and surrounding communities as many of those events as we can. Our 8th annual Dancing with the Waco Stars is on October the 26th. This year's theme is Hollywood, which fits perfectly as we return to our original venue, the Waco Hippodrome Theater. This is going to be an evening of fantastic entertainment as local celebrities perform in a dance competition. They're going to raise money and awareness for Family Abuse Center. And these dancers rely on our community support for a successful performance and a chance to win the competition on the big night. So your support also helps the staff and volunteers at Family Abuse Center provide safety, education, and support for survivors of domestic violence. So we also need volunteers for many of our events. We need volunteers for Out on the Brazos. That is Saturday, October the 7th. We have slots available from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We need volunteers for Dancing with the Waco Stars, October 26th at 7 p.m. Volunteers are needed for Alliance for Safe Children Trunk or Treat, October the 30th. And of course, our regular volunteer activities, weekly children's group, shelter support, resident advocate assistance, and more. So you can also support us by making a donation. We always need everything from diapers to feminine hygiene products, twin sheet sets, twin blankets, and more. Please call us at 254-772-8999 to inquire about our needs or schedule a donation drop-off. The other ways to make a donation, you can make financial donations on our website or inquire about our Amazon wish list. And finally, I want to conclude by letting everyone know that we recently exceeded our goal of raising $20,000 for a pet shelter on our property so that no survivor has to leave their furry friends behind. We are incredibly grateful for each and every donation, and thank you for being a part of our mission to eliminate domestic violence in Central Texas. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please go to our website, www.familyabusecenter.org, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or X, formerly Twitter. And please, if you ever need our support or want to inquire about our services, call 1-800-283-8401. This is 24 hours, and it is a local hotline.
Awesome. Be sure to check out the Family Abuse Center. We absolutely love the work that they do so much. We're very proud to call them a sister organization and just do all that we can to support the great work that they're doing in our community. So we just wanted to take some time just to spotlight all that they've been doing today. So be sure to check them out wherever you can, however you can, volunteer if you can. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for being here, Carmen.
Thank you, Kyla.
Bye. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Real-ationship Goals, episode 2 of season 5. We are so glad that you're joining us here today and this season. I'm Kyla.
Mariana?
I'm Maria.
All right. We're going to go ahead and jump right in with our story today, which I have. I was originally going to talk about the cyberbullying movie, and then I realized that that movie is now a bit more dated and probably not quite as relevant. So instead, I'm going to talk about a situation in my life, which 10-year-old Kyla at the time felt like the end of the world. Probably one of the most dramatic things to happen to me up until that point, from my own personal perspective at that time. But for my 10th birthday, as my first form of like internet connecting / social media, I was allowed to set up my first email account for my 10th birthday. Woohoo, exciting. And that was my primary form of communication with all of my friends, just like throughout the week, was we would just email back and forth, which I look back and just think is so funny. There's just something so silly about a group of 10-year-old girls using email to communicate. So funny. But so we used email a lot just to chat back and forth. And I do not remember how it started. I don't really remember how it ended. But for some reason, 2 of my friends just kind of started being super not kind to me, kind of out of nowhere. And like at one point, one of them was like, "You're not invited to my birthday party." Devastating. Devastating. So I just remember being so upset and just like crying and crying and crying. I remember for some reason, I remember very distinctly having a conversation with my mom, like about the situation. And I think that was the first time I'd really told her about it, about like why I was so upset. And an aisle at Walmart, I'm pretty sure is where we were. And we were just kind of talking about that. And I think that I don't remember it very well just because it's been a redacted amount of years since I was 10 years old. I don't remember exactly how it was resolved, but part of me wants to say that I think my mom maybe talked to their moms or something like that, and some combination of that plus just time. Whenever you're 10 years old, it resolved. I'm still pretty decent friends with both, and one of them ended up coming to Baylor the same year that I did. We ended up being better friends then than we had been in like all of high school. But yeah, so that was just kind of a very, like I said, adult Kyla looking back is like, wow, such a not big deal. Really doesn't matter. I think I ended up maybe even still going to her birthday party at the end of the day, but at the time it was just like the end of the world because I felt so like isolated, and it was like, these people are my friends, and like, am I losing my friends? Are they not going to be my friends anymore? What's going on? I'm really confused. So it's definitely not the most egregious form of cyberbullying at all. But it was something that definitely stood out to me whenever we decided to talk about this topic today. So that is my 10-year-old tale of woe.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's different times when you were younger and reflecting on your younger self. It's like you look back at it now, it's like, well, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really did feel like the end of the world, huh?
It did.
Anyways.
But yeah, thank you, Kyla, for sharing that story with us. So if you haven't heard right before then, we are talking about cyberbullying. And cyberbullying is defined by the Cyberbullying Research Center as willful and repeated harm inflicted through the use of computers, cell phones, and other electronic devices. So throughout this episode, we're just going to be talking about how cyberbullying has impacted other people. How can it impact other people? How does it form on different platforms and things like that? And how do we intervene when cyberbullying is going on? And how do we just support people that may be on the receiving side of cyberbullying? And so, yeah. So Maria, Kyla, what are we thinking?
Think would love to just take some time to just kind of like break down the definition as well, just because like especially while I was reading it, I was like, oh yes, I have some tension with some of these things. So like there were parts of like willful, that means the behavior has to be deliberate, not accidental, because it's definitely possible to hurt somebody's feelings accidentally. And generally that's a little bit easier to resolve because then somebody's like, wow, you really hurt my feelings. And then it's, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And then resolves a little bit quicker that way versus I'm intentionally saying something to hurt your feelings because I want to cause you harm. That takes a little bit more time to resolve sometimes. And then one of the things that I kind of disagreed with a little bit about the definition that they used was the word repeated. Like it has to be repeated for it to be considered cyberbullying, and I kind of disagree. I think that isolated incidents are just as capable of doing just as much damage, and I think it's, in my opinion, it can still be cyberbullying even if it only happens once. And then the last thing was it said, like, part of whenever they were also breaking down their own definition as well, they said that harm, it can be expounded into the target must perceive that harm was inflicted. And I have just some tension in that because it's like, yes, I to a degree, I do agree that that is true, but at the same time, I don't think that it can only be determined as cyberbullying if the victim of that perceives harm, even if they don't. Like I think of instances whenever I've like interned in middle schools and things like that, and just like been in schools of where a student will tell me of something like that maybe like, even one of their friends is like posting on their Instagram or something that somebody else in the school is like saying to them on the internet or something like that. And they're like, and it's like just kind of like not really acknowledging, or maybe they don't recognize that as hurtful or something like that. And I'm just shocked. And I'm like, that's such a horrible thing to say. And maybe like part of it is they don't recognize it now, but I'm worried that years down the line, they're gonna sit with that. And then like it may just have like a delayed hurt. That harm might be delayed, but it is still real. And even if it's not actively hurting in that moment, it doesn't mean that we don't need to address it at that time. So just kind of a tension there for me, I think.
Yeah, I kind of on the fence about that one as well, because some people might have delayed reactions to cyberbullying and they might not understand or might not acknowledge it. Might be like an embarrassing moment for them, even if like, especially like if it's somebody that's close to them, like their friends or something like that. I'm like, oh, it's just Jack being Jack. It's like, no.
Well, Jack might be being a bad friend.
So yeah, I kind of have a little tension with that as well, because sometimes people might not recognize it in that moment, and then later on down the line they will. And then by that time you graduated and you're living your own life now, it's like, well, can't address it now, but you can most definitely address it at any point in time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For sure.
I agree with both of you.
I guess cyberbullying is such a generalized term, and even like with that definition, it's literally just like, oh, it is if you do it through your cell phone or your computer or an electronic device. If you're using your pager to cyberbully someone, doubt it, but maybe one day they did. What are just some of the different kinds of cyberbullying that maybe like y'all are familiar with?
Commenting on someone's posts through all social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok.
Do you remember when the whole Selena versus Haley thing was going on?
Yes.
And people were commenting on both of their stuff. Like that immediately took me to that. But I think like giving out the like DMs, or like putting in DMs, like, you know, harassing them through private messaging is also one of them that kind of sticks out to me.
That's a huge one. Another one that like we see a little bit more in like some of the work that not necessarily that we directly do, but at the Advocacy Center that we see some is just like revenge porn. I feel like it's more and more common every year, just in different ways. We'll get into it a little bit more later down the line in a different episode, but like especially just the possibilities with AI and stuff like that. It's just, that one it is becoming more of a threat, I think. And like doxing is a huge one, especially like I feel like doxing was super popular on Twitter for a while, just because it's like, oh, somebody you don't like said something you don't like or agree with on Instagram. Here's their personal address and all of their information, and I'm like,
and it's going out on Twitch too. Like streamers will be playing games or whatever, they'll have like marathons, and then somebody will get mad at like them getting all these subscribers, and they'll call in to the police at where the streamer's at and be like, hey, they have a bomb, or like,
oh my
they're
gosh,
threatening all this thing, and they'll have
heard that
bomb squads or like SWAT go out to getting swatted and have them go out.
That's
creating like hate groups, accounts, websites. So like creating a fake profile of that person and like pretending to be them, and just like having that false interpretation of what that person is, how their character is, what they do, and things like that, to try to intentionally harm that person and just basically sabotage their reputation as a person.
There was one of the schools that I was in, one of the like something that was really popular that I'd never really run into before, was students would make different, like there was an account where they would post pictures of like whenever they caught other students like sleeping, like throughout the school, like they would post pictures of them sleeping on that, which is weird for a few different reasons, a little icky for a few different reasons. But there was one where they would intentionally like post unflattering pictures of like one specific like support staff member and like say rude things, and just very, very disappointing, all of that. So that's absolutely on there. So like intentionally posting like embarrassing or like hateful content is absolutely one for sure.
I think when I was in high school, our school had a Twitter account, and people were encouraged to post like rumors or like things they know about certain people, and this account would post it anonymously. And it like sometimes would just be like, oh, like a certain cheerleader did this, and sometimes it would actually call
like
out the name. Yeah, and it was kind of like that, and they had like a whole Instagram page, and it spread out to like the 254 confessions or whatever, and it just
makes me feel sick to my stomach, which makes it feel like a good transition into how does cyberbullying impact people.
Cyberbullying definitely impacts people. I think it just causes to bring up a variety of different emotions, like such as with sadness, anger, frustration, confusion, especially hitting on those points of it coming from people that you know and people that you're close to, and because it definitely impacts you even with people that you don't know and you don't even know that it's happening. Also just a lot of different emotions with stress as well. So it can impact the way people might view themselves, because we do have self-esteem as individuals, and that can fluctuate up and down, especially when you bring cyberbullying into the category. So that's my thought on that.
Especially just like creating new insecurities. Like I'm thinking especially of like any of the accounts where it's like intentionally posting like bad photos of people and like commenting on like their body and stuff like that. Like there's all kinds of ways that you can create these insecurities in people's self-worth that may even lead to, like I'm thinking about like eating disorders, body dysmorphia, things like that. Like there's, to a very real degree, it's possible to ruin the way that somebody views themselves, just with that constant feedback of negativity. Just it's scary.
Yeah,
It's scary.
very, very scary. And it's like, we don't want to be doing that, because in society today, there are a lot of things that are going on that pertains to social media and how it's viewed and how it's used. So cyberbullying can just really, really enhance how someone views themselves and how somebody might even interact with others because of this thing going on. So yeah, it can even lead to people having just physical issues with their well-being, like having headaches, having stomach aches, stress, having hard time sleeping. Like it can impact every aspect of that person's just well-being and existence. So that's what I think about that. That's really, really very important to touch on cyberbullying, because it's just so prevalent in this time. And just seeing how it has grown over time, and just like, well, we should do something to prevent that from happening. So
it's something that nobody is immune from.
Yeah.
Too. Like I also think about, like, obviously I think about just students, everyday people, just living life, experiencing like these hateful comments and these hateful situations and things like that. But I also think one of like the most visible forms of cyberbullying that we see is like towards celebrities and things like that. Like I just think about all of the like vitriol and hate that just gets spread so frequently because there's a lack of recognition, I think, of very real consequences of doing things like that, because no matter how rich you are or how celebrity you are, you're not immune from feeling those impacts that we kind of just hit on. But I think there's a degree of where it's like, oh, I'm just one comment in 500,000, so it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, a lot of celebrities are just like us. They spend time scrolling through their socials. They're reading. They're like, oh, I posted this video that I made. I wonder how people like it. And then they scroll through and they see that. And so nobody's immune to it, no matter what the situation is. So it's just never a good deal. But what do we do in response to this? What can we do?
I think there's a couple different things you can do. Like if you see something, report it. Whether it be to like a parent or guardian or just an adult that you trust. Just kind of help make sure that everyone keeps safe, even if like you don't specifically stand up for that person against whoever's doing the cyberbullying, because it might not always be safe. The best you can do is tell someone else and have the right person handle it for you.
Yeah, and even when telling a trusted adult, whether it's a parent, teacher, or anything like that, a coach, also keeping in mind, acknowledging that sometimes it can be hard for someone to do, because it is very hard for them to just like try to understand and how to navigate through that. But a few tips in approaching those cyberbullying conversations is choosing a time you're comfortable with and you know that you have their full attention. I believe that when you have the person you're about to tell, the trusted adult, when you have their full attention, you will feel more comfortable yourself with explaining how serious the situation is for you. And also, even like if you're telling a parent, even if they're not just like up to date with social media today, when you're explaining this type of situation to them, I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10 they are more than willing to help you in any kind of way, just because they want your well-being to be well taken care of. So
I'd say, like, for all of our adult listeners as well, one of the most important things that you can do, like if a student comes to you, 'cause I just, in all the years that I've worked and been around the students and everything like that, there's just such a common theme of they don't care, or it's like I've tried to tell them they don't care, nothing happens, which is just so hard and so heartbreaking every time. So just if you're an adult that a student trusts enough to come to with this burden that they're carrying, that they need to share with you, take time to listen to them, make time to listen to them. I know it's hard, I know it's probably uncomfortable, and maybe you're not sure how to navigate the situation, kind of like Ariana was saying. Maybe you're not sure exactly what the right thing is to do, but one of the best things that you can do is simply listen, ask open-ended questions, and always believe them. Believe them whenever they're coming to you with this, and then tell them that you believe them. I think that can be a huge impact as well, of just letting them know that they are seen, that they are heard, and that you're going to do what you can to help them. You're going to get them connected. If it's not you that's able to do anything, you're going to get them connected to people that are able to do something, because there are things that we can do.
Yeah.
There are things that we can do. So
most definitely.
Well, I think with that, we can probably transition into our relationship goal for today. Maria, I believe you have that.
I sure do. So my goal is to look out for those in your community. If you see an instance of cyberbullying, make sure you speak up and help those around you if possible, even if it's by telling an adult like we just said. And before making any kind of comments on people's posts or even through text message or email, put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself if this is how you'd like to be treated. Before you do anything like that, just because you never know what's going on in someone else's life, and your comment might just be one of many others. So be that voice for other people.
Definitely hitting that empathy note again. I think that's going to be a common theme. It's always a solid one. Just always tuning into that empathy. And then I have our recommendation for today, which is just having a fun little cup to drink from. It doesn't matter what kind of cup it is. It just has to be fun to you. For me, it's definitely not little, but it's fun to me, and it's my Yeti. I carry it with me everywhere. Maria and Ariana can attest. Everybody in my life can attest. It goes with me everywhere. It's my emotional support Yeti. And honestly, having a cup like that I am so attached to has helped leaps and bounds with me drinking more water. So it's only upsides. Get a fun little cup.
I have a few. I have a big red sparkling one.
We've seen that one.
Yes, you have.
It's a good one. But thank you everybody for joining us for today's episode. We're so excited to be here with you. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. Not going to tell you what it is. You have to show up. You have to listen. So we will see you next week. In the meantime, if you're looking for some more prevention content, you can follow us on Instagram at ACCVC_prevention, or you can follow our agency account at Advocacy_Waco. And be sure to follow, subscribe, follow, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to set up notifications for the next time that our podcast episode is released next week. You can follow us also at ACCVC_prevention, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
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 Thanks so much for tuning in to Real-ationship Goals. This episode was produced by the Prevention and Education Department of the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. You can follow us on Instagram at ACCVC_prevention. See you next time.